History is full of grand battles, stirring speeches, and moments of heroic sacrifice, but every now and then it also gives us a story that feels a bit like a heist movie, gone delightfully off script. This is one of those stories. It involves a German submarine, a group of very determined Americans, and a situation that can only be described as finders keepers under extremely unusual circumstances. If you've ever wondered whether wartime operations could include a dash of opportunistic borrowing, you're in for a treat. Because on this particular day, the United States didn't just fight the enemy, they essentially swiped one of their submarines right out from under them. And somehow it was both completely legitimate and just a little bit cheeky. To set the stage, we need to travel back to World War II, when the Atlantic Ocean was basically one giant, very dangerous chessboard. German U-boats were prowling the waters, sinking Allied ships and making life miserable for anyone trying to cross the ocean. These submarines were sleek, deadly, and, let's be honest, kind of impressive pieces of engineering. The Allies, especially the United States and Britain, were desperate to counter them. So whenever a U-boat showed up, it wasn't just a threat, it was also a potential goldmine of intelligence if you could get your hands on it. Now, capturing an enemy submarine is not exactly a walk in the park. It's not like picking up a stray shopping cart in a parking lot and wheeling it home. Submarines are designed to sink, disappear, and if necessary, self-destruct to avoid capture. German crews were under strict orders to scuttle their vessels rather than let them fall into enemy hands. So the idea of just casually stealing one sounds about as realistic as borrowing a tiger from a zoo without anyone noticing. And yet, that's pretty much what ended up happening. There was the U-505, a German-type 9C submarine that had already seen its fair share of action. By mid-1944, it had been through multiple patrols and was probably feeling a bit like a veteran employee who just wanted a quiet shift for once. Unfortunately for the U-505, its next encounter would be anything but routine. The submarine found itself in the sights of an American hunter-killer group led by the escort carrier USS Guadalcanal. This wasn't just any random group of ships, it was specifically organized to hunt down U-boats like a very determined pack of wolves with radar. On June 4th, 1944, the U-505's luck ran out. The American ships detected it and launched a coordinated attack using depth charges, which are basically underwater explosives designed to make submarines regret their life choices. The explosions rattled the U-505 so badly that its crew thought they were about to be turned into a cautionary tale. In a panic, the German sailors surfaced the submarine, something you generally only do when you're either very confident or very desperate. In this case, it was definitely the latter. As the U-505 broke the surface, chaos took over. The German crew began abandoning ship, assuming the submarine was doomed. They also tried to scuttle it, opening valves to let water flood in and setting demolition charges where they could. Their goal was simple. If they couldn't keep the submarine, no one could. Meanwhile, the American ships closed in, guns ready, probably expecting a straightforward surrender or a quick sinking. What they got instead was an opportunity that must have made someone say, "Wait, is that thing still usable?" This is where things get interesting, because instead of just blowing the submarine out of the water or letting it sink, the Americans decided to board it. Yes, board it. Picture a group of sailors looking at a half-abandoned enemy submarine and thinking, you know what, let's go check that out. It was a bold move, slightly insane, and absolutely brilliant. A boarding party led by Lieutenant Albert David jumped onto the U-505, fully aware that it could still explode, flood, or do something equally unpleasant at any moment. Inside the submarine, things were not exactly welcoming. Water was pouring in, systems were failing, and there was always the possibility that a hidden charge could go off. It's basically the nautical equivalent of entering a house that's on fire while also possibly rigged to explode. But the boarding team pressed on because they knew what was at stake. If they could save the submarine, they wouldn't just get a cool souvenir, they'd gain access to German codes, equipment, and intelligence that could turn the tide of the war. The sailors worked quickly to stop the flooding, close valves, and stabilize the submarine. It was like a very high-stakes version of plugging leaks in a sinking boat. except the boat belonged to the enemy and might still be trying to kill you. Somehow, against all odds, they managed to get the situation under control. The U-505, which had been moments away from becoming an underwater grave, was now salvageable. At this point, you can almost imagine someone saying, "Well, I guess we're taking this with us." Towing a captured submarine across the Atlantic is not exactly subtle. It's not like sneaking a candy bar into your pocket. It's more like dragging a very large, very conspicuous object behind your car while hoping no one notices. The Americans had to be extremely careful because if the Germans found out that one of their U-boats had been captured intact, they'd immediately change their codes and procedures. That would make all the intelligence gained from the submarine far less useful. So secrecy became the name of the game. The U-505 was quietly towed to Bermuda under a veil of tight security. The German prisoners were kept isolated with the impression that their submarine had sunk. Meanwhile, American intelligence teams got to work examining every inch of the vessel. They found code books, encryption devices, and other materials that were incredibly valuable. It was like finding the enemy's diary, password list, and instruction manual all in one place. For the Allies, this was a jackpot. What makes this story particularly amusing is the sheer audacity of it all. In the middle of a global war, with all the chaos and danger that entails, a group of sailors essentially said, "Let's just take this submarine." And then they did. It wasn't part of some long-planned scheme to steal a U-boat. It was a quick decision made in the heat of the moment. The kind of decision that could have gone horribly wrong, but instead turned into one of the most successful intelligence coups of the war. Of course, it wasn't all laughs and high fives. The operation was incredibly risky, and the sailors involved knew it. Boarding a damaged enemy submarine is not exactly a low-stress activity, but their bravery paid off in a big way. The capture of the U-505 provided insights into German naval operations and helped the Allies in their ongoing battle against U-boats. It also boosted morale because there's something undeniably satisfying about turning the tables on your opponent in such a dramatic fashion. Today, the U-505 still exists, which is more than you can say for most wartime submarines. It's been preserved as a museum piece, allowing people to see firsthand the vessel that was once at the center of this incredible story. Walking through it, you can almost imagine the chaos of that day, the rushing water, the frantic efforts to save the ship, and the realization that something extraordinary was happening. It's a tangible reminder that history isn't just about dates and battles. It's about people making bold decisions in the moment. And really, that's what makes this story so memorable. It's not just about a submarine being captured, it's about the sheer nerve of the people involved. It's about looking at a dangerous, unpredictable situation and deciding to take a chance. It's about turning a moment of chaos into an opportunity. And yes, it's also about the fact that for one brief and bizarre moment, the United States basically stole a German submarine and got away with it. So the next time you think of World War II, with all its seriousness and gravity, remember that it also had moments like this, moments where strategy met improvisation, and where a bold idea turned into an unforgettable success. Because sometimes history isn't just about who won or lost, it's about how they managed to do it. And in this case, they did it by grabbing a submarine and saying, "We'll take that, thank you very much."